What are you willing to give up in order to get to the next level? As you develop as a leader, you inevitably come to a point in your career where you begin to wonder whether what brought you to where you are now will take you to the next level. Let me think for a moment about a woman I work with named Chris. She knew at one level expectations of her had shifted. I mean, still expected to get it done, but now get it done through others. I mean, do I dare give up that control? I mean, I know the importance of delegating, but by the time I get someone else up to speed, I could have gotten it done myself. I mean, you actually expect me to trust more people. Malcolm, another person, his issue really wasn't one about delegation. It was really more around compromise. I mean, he thought, for instance, that he'd already compromised enough in order to move into this position of vice president. The compromise, for instance, that he was already feeling as though he was no longer one of the boys. You know, things that he used to say routinely suddenly took on much more different weight. I mean, he had really not anticipated the impact of his position in terms of, influence, and quite frankly, how other people reacted to him. Lynn had made several transitions before. I mean, had been promoted several times already. Each of these moves had been significant increases in responsibility. She knew what it took to run $1 million P&L. So on one hand, tackling a $5 million P&L just seemed like adding more, she thought. This time the jump felt more exponential, a significant organizational career leap, but not just more, actually qualitatively and quantitatively more. And she was not sure doing the same things in the same way will continue to get her the same results. So what do you really give up in order to move up? And let me try to pinpoint 5 examples of that from my perspective. One is that you can no longer rely on your hard-earned and well-served hands-on approach that's probably driven by no one can do it as well as I can, and again, certainly driven by preferring to be in your own comfort zone. You just have to figure out how to get more work done through others. Second one, you have to demonstrate a far more strategic perspective. Even though you've been reinforced of thinking tactically, thinking operationally, if you have to give that up, and as in a specific example, you just can't lead off by saying, that won't work, or just tell me what to do. You really have to start off by asking, what are we trying to accomplish here? What's the big picture of what we're trying to do? A third area that you have to really consider is, instead of focusing on the subject matter expertise and the known capability that you have and that you need right now, you really have to expand that focus and start thinking about, what does the individual and the organizational capacity and capability require in the future? The fourth thing is really your approach to influencing others. I mean, to date, it's just really no doubt that a large part of your influence has come from the power of the position that you hold. And there's still going to be some of that, but you have to give up over-relying on that positional power and continue to develop the power that you have from influencing and persuading others, which really requires taking more time to understand the perspective of another person, being able to focus in on their needs and how to address their needs and blend all that together. And the fifth area really is that you really, really have to look good under the lights. Now, don't take that as a belief that performance no longer matters, because it always matters. It continues to matter. It's just that at some point in your career and in some point in every organization, the power of performance in differentiating what happens to one person to another one gets more minimized. I'm going to be at a point where I have several choices about people who can actually deliver the results. It's at that point in time that your image becomes far more critical. Do you actually look like you belong in that role? Do you actually look like you can do what's asked of you? Image becomes more critical. Equally more critical is exposure. Who even knows you? When your name comes up, the people immediately identify who you are. Now, for many of you, that sort of takes you to the point of not wanting to be in too political of an environment. You just really don't want to work for a company that feels as though it's more important who you know than what it is that you do. If that's you, I'm just suggesting to you, you just have to get over it. It has always been true that the whole pie is important: performance, image, and exposure. The question becomes, what are you willing to give up in order to gain? Greg Pennington, Pinpoint Consulting Group.